Hello, I am David Bulow, Director of Educational Programs at Performative, the online community for corporate finance, accounting, treasury, and related professionals. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's technology demo, Next Generation Financial Management, Where's Today's Business Are Going. In the world of finance and accounting, we are on the cusp of a major technology shift from online premises to cloud-based applications. Today's accounting systems were designed more than 30 years ago for GAAP accounting. Since then, we have had significant changes in finance. Globalization has become the norm. Regulatory requirements continue to evolve. Business structures are morphing at hyperpace, mergers, acquisitions, spin-offs, and the like. The role of the CFO has changed significantly, and new technologies have emerged. So how can finance adapt to these changes? And what can the cloud offer to help improve financial performance? A few items before we get started today. I want to thank those who are returning to Performative, and those who are new, welcome. Performative is the fastest growing online resource for senior level corporate finance, accounting, and treasury professionals. We provide a uniquely valuable online peer network which provides direct subject matter expert advice. We also recently launched Performative Exchange, which is a collaboratory platform for researching products and services. All of this is completely noise-free. Check it out at performative.com. A link to today's presentation and a recording of this webinar will be sent out to all attendees within 24 hours. If you'd like to download today's slides, they're available on performative.com/resources at this point in time. There is no CPE credit for today's technology demo. We would like everyone to utilize the question box in your GoToWebinar panel, and we will get these questions to the speaker during the Q&A session. You will be asked to take a short survey at the end of today's event. We would like to ask you to give us that last minute of your time so we can continue to improve and bring you the best content available. And now it is a great pleasure to introduce our speaker, Jim Haddad. Jim brings over 17 years as a certified public accountant and 26 years of financial software experience to his role as financial solution consultant for Workday. Jim is both a skilled practitioner and a technology specialist and has extensive experience in administration, implementing, and demonstrating a variety of financial systems. He also has helped deliver solutions for industry leaders across a variety of industries, including healthcare, retail, professional, and financial services. Prior to Workday, Jim held finance and technology positions for Infor, Lawson, and Federal Business Centers. He has a BS in accounting from Keene University. And now I would like to turn it over to Jim as he begins our presentation.
All right, great. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone, depending on where you are. Today's presentation, as David mentioned, we're going to focus on Workday's new generation of financial management applications. And we're actually going to start the presentation out with a big question. The big question is why? You know, why in a day and age when there are literally hundreds of financial and human capital management applications on the market today, you know, why would Workday feel compelled to introduce a new one, you know, a brand new one? And to answer that question, I want to start out talking about the world. The world has changed since the applications that most folks on this phone are using today were designed and developed. You know, most of the applications on the market today were designed in the 80s and the 90s. And a lot has changed since that time. User expectations have changed significantly. You know, we all use social media now. We use Amazon.com and Google, online banking. You know, no one ever trained you how to use your online banking site. Okay? Technology has changed significantly since those applications were initially designed. People used to have to run applications on-premise on a big server with a database and all of that. People were also basically chained to their desk when they needed information out of those systems. Now, People want information on their mobile devices, their iPads, their iPhones, their Android devices. Applications can be cloud-based, which means you don't have any hardware or software infrastructure on-premise. So that's a very significant change. And the other thing that's changed a lot since these applications were developed is the business landscape itself. You know, even small companies can be global now. Business also changes much more rapidly now than it did in the 80s and 90s when those applications were created. There's also compliance issues that exist for all businesses today, public or not, that just didn't exist back in the 80s and 90s. So all of these things have changed while the applications that we all used and use have not. They were designed in a completely different world. You know, Einstein said it best when he said that the significant problems we face today cannot be solved at the same level of thinking we were at when we created them. And in technology terms, that means you can't solve 21st century issues using 20th century technologies. So Workday recognized that. And we realized very quickly that the only way to address these problems was really to start with a clean slate. We knew that in order for people to use the system effectively, it had to be simple. Simple for users, but also simple for businesses to implement and to maintain. We knew that the systems needed to deliver insight inherently, whereas, and I'll go into this in a few minutes, a lot of the applications that were built in the 80s and 90s, you know, required bolt-on business intelligence and reporting applications in order to gain insight out of the information sitting in the system. We also knew we could use an innovative approach and some innovative technology in the creation of our solution. We weren't hampered with some of the old technology burdens that existed, such as relational databases and things like that, when other systems were created. So we were able to use some really new and innovative stuff. We knew that the systems today needed to possess the ability for companies to be agile. When things change, your system needs to change with you. All right? And the other systems, and I'll talk about this in just a few minutes as well. The older systems, when something changed in the business, it was very painful, if at all possible, to change the system to reflect that new requirement. And we're going to talk about different ways that we've allowed for change within the Workday application. And then finally, we wanted to provide higher value than the traditional enterprise applications were. Traditionally, enterprise applications are updated, you know, every 3, 5, 10 years, which means you can't get new functionality until you go through that painful and usually expensive process of upgrading. Whereas Workday, since we're delivered in the cloud, we automatically deliver to our customers new functionality 3 times a year. You automatically get it. There's no upgrade process required to use and acquire that new functionality. So these are the 5 tenets, really, of the Workday solution. They're also going to serve as the 5 agenda items for today's presentation. We're going to get into each of these, and I'm going to show you examples in many of them of what we mean when we say the system is simple, provides native insight, is innovative, provides agility, and high value to our customers. So let's start out with the concept of simple. So what do we mean when we say that Workday built simplicity into the application? And to show you that, I'm going to go into the system live. I'm logged into Workday here as Angela Bianchi, and Angela is a manager in my pretend demo environment. But when Angela logs in, she lands on this All About Me landing page, we call it. You can see this landing page is very easy for her to navigate. She wants to update personal information or view pay information, possibly enter an expense report. She simply clicks on the items in this wheel. Now, just to compare this, in traditional applications, going from HR information to purchasing information to manager information, you normally have multiple portals. Maybe they're bolt-ons. Sometimes you've got multiple logins. In Workday, our applications are unified so that whether you're in HCM or in purchasing or in general ledger or wherever you are, the user interface looks the same. There aren't multiple logins required. very easy for users to navigate this way. Matter of fact, if Angela wanted to purchase a laptop, she could click Search Catalog. It's very easy to figure that out. And she can just type in laptop, do a search, and now the system presents her with laptops that she can order. I'll cancel out of that. We won't actually do that recognition. Now, since Angela is a manager, she also has a My Team landing page. So when she clicks on My Team, now this is more like a typical manager self-service where she can see her direct reports. She can perform actions such as transfers, promotions, etc. If Angela has access to financial reports, again, very easy to get to them. She just clicks on financial reporting. One of the benefits of this simple-to-use interface is that we can provide information to more people than just the finance folks and just the HR folks. This application is designed to disseminate information functionality to a much wider group, typically everyone in the organization, from employees all the way up to executives. Managers in particular can manage their spend. What do you think they do? They click on Spend Management. And here, a manager like Angela can see expense reports that are policy. She can see overtime analysis, her team's expense reports. Now, Angela heads up the North America field sales group in this organization, and you can see her team spend is $71,000. Well, what we also mean by simple to use is simple to get to more information. So the Internet has taught us that where you see a hyperlink or these little arrows, you can click to get more information. If Angela wants more detail about her team's spend, she clicks the little drop-down, and this list of different ways that Angela can view her team's spend appears. And I'll talk more about this list and how it got here a little later, but Angela very simply wants to view who's spending the money on her team. She clicks Employee, and now she sees a weighted list of employee spend by employee. And she can easily see Brandon Harris is the biggest spender in her group. Well, this naturally begs the question, well, what are they spending on? So Angela can very easily, in her view here, say, I want to see not spend just by employee, but also by expense item. And when she clicks on that, she sees by employee, by their expense items, what their spend is on. You can see it's very easy to move around the system, very easy to get more information. And we can take this a level down even from here. If Angela's biggest spend is within Brandon Harris, and his airfare is pretty high. You know, this pretend company uses United Airlines as a preferred airline. She wants to make sure that Brandon is using United since he's her big spender. She can very easily click the airfare drop-down and go in and view by merchant. And now the system will present to her the Delta Airlines and the American Airlines contribution to that spend for Brandon Harris. So you can see it's very easy to get into, to answer questions and to navigate through information. Now, it's also very easy to take this information, send it out to a PDF to print it, or send it to Excel to maybe, you know, slice and dice a different way or manipulate. You can very easily put graphs on any screen that you're on. I just click on the little graph icon. Now, there's a problem here. So, you know, I said United Airlines is the preferred vendor for airfare, yet Brandon Harris is using Delta and American. One of the other things that we make very easy and very simple in Workday is navigation through the system. So Angela can actually click over here on Brandon. There's a little related action. Let me zoom in on that for you. There's a little related action next to objects on the screen. And I use the word objects because Workday is object-based, and that means Brandon as an employee is an object. Everything in the system is an object. So as long as I have security to, I can click that little down arrow, and now the system will show me information about Brandon, maybe his talent profile, etc., kind of like a drill down that a lot of us are familiar with. But in addition, you can take action on the items that you have security to take action on. So Angela can actually start a development plan for Brandon or start a disciplinary action if it was that serious that he wasn't using United Airlines. But she can do something as simple as giving feedback. So that related action not only allows Angela to see information, gain insight, but also to take action on it. So she can tell Brandon, please use preferred airlines. I'm even doing spell checking for me, but That's because the way I type, I need spell checking. There we go. So I won't actually send that through. So it's very simple for Angela to move around the system, to answer questions, and even to take action. Something else that Workday built into the application to make it simple to use is searching. So if there's anything that the internet has taught us, it's how to search. We all use Google, and we use Bing and Yahoo and wherever else it is. Well, that same capability should be in your enterprise system as well, in your financials, your HR, your payroll. If Angela is interested in seeing information, maybe she wants to track down an invoice that came in from Dell, and she's got security to do so. She can just go to the top right box there and do a search on Dell. The system will present to Angela any screens or menus or reports that have that word in it, in addition to any data and information that has Dell in it. So you can see in my example here, Angela can order a Dell mouse. There's a Dell supplier record in accounts payable. This is an invoice from Dell. Maybe she wants to dig into this invoice a little bit. As long as she has security, what do you think she'd click on? That related action. And she can see information about the invoice, payment terms, etc. Even navigate that transaction in a graphical drill down on that invoice. So you can see this supplier invoice for Dell was matched against a purchase order here. There was also a payment made to Dell. And if Angela wants details on this PO, she can expand that. And I can see that there's a requisition and 2 lines related to that PO. And she can click on the requisition to expand that even more. So all of that information is easily accessible just by doing a search and clicking on a related action. So very easy to move around. The last thing that I want to talk about with regard to simplicity is mobility. So Workday has built into its application natively the ability to provide managers, employees, analytics, self-service functions, reports, graphs, etc., all that drill down you just saw me doing, natively on iPads, iPhone, BlackBerry devices, Android devices. Now, in typical ERP applications, there's some hardware, there's some middleware you have to license, there's some licensing you have to do. With Workday, you basically just check off a few boxes within the setup of the system, and now you can deploy this information on mobile devices for everyone involved. Again, allowing us to send information out and to be used by many more people than just the finance and HR folks. So just to wrap up, the idea of Workday being simple and building simplicity into the application. You saw me doing speed of thought navigation. I was clicking very quickly, drilling into details to any level of detail, and we'll get into that in a little bit more in the next section. Internet-like searching to find information and navigate. The ability with this object-based architecture to take action from information and objects on the screen. And then finally, using tools like printing to PDFs and to Excel, and then the graphing capability you saw me do just a minute ago. That's what we mean when we say that we built simplicity into the application. The next thing we built into the application was inherent insight. And let me just give you a picture of what a traditional enterprise application looks like. Most of you are probably going to living with the picture I'm going to paint right now. For years, this is what I implemented and used. Typically the systems we used were accounting-based systems. They were designed to do GAAP financial type reporting, and they were very journal and accounting-based. But then there was a new need that came out, more operational analytics and management information, where we wanted dashboards and scorecards to actually measure the business, not just the accounting of the business. So traditional applications, what they did was they bolted on data marts. It was a new technology back then. And then to those data marts, a lot of times they connected them to data warehouses. And then business intelligence solutions were layered on top of that to actually present that information to management and operational users of the system. Then, of course, we decided, we needed to automate things using workflow. So traditional solutions bolted on workflow solutions. And then, of course, Sarbanes-Oxley came about in 2002. That didn't exist prior to that, where we needed now segregation of duties and very strict security. So those were bolted on to the traditional solutions. And you can see this picture here is quite messy. You've got information being stored here in your financial system, here being stored in data marts. and the data warehouse, and then being sent out to spreadsheets. It's also very complicated. If anything breaks in this ecosystem here, very difficult to troubleshoot. We have to rely on IT now to maintain this. And anytime one of these things needs to be upgraded, it's normally a major project because of that complicated IT infrastructure to support this. So all of this basically equates to a traditional solution bolting on lots of tools and other applications, which creates a problem. It creates a chasm between the systems that have the information and getting that information to the users, and not just the financial users of the system, but all of the users or desired users of the system. So Workday recognizes this as a major problem with the architecture of the traditional system. And we built our solution to provide native insight without requiring bolt-on business intelligence, workflow, compliance, and risk solutions. So let me jump back into the system, this time as a finance executive, to show you what I mean by native insight that's built into Workday. Logged in is Teresa Serrano. She's our CFO of this company. And when Teresa logs in, you'll notice her landing page looks very different than Angela's did. So Teresa's got on the left here what we call the work feed. And Workday is built into, and I'll talk more about this in a little bit, we've built into our system what we call the business process framework, which is not just a workflow tool, but it's also a process management tool. And that tool is what's sending Teresa notifications about requisitions she has to approve, time off requests, expense reports to approve. She's part of the close process for an entity, so she's got a to-do in the close process. She's also got emails coming in or notifications coming in about timesheets that are missing and segregation of duties exceptions, okay? So all of her workflow, the notifications are flowing in there. Then, in the middle on the right of the screen, she's got what Workday calls worklists. These are basically little dashboards, little reports that we deliver hundreds of. We deliver hundreds to our customers, plus you've got the ability for end users to tailor these or create new ones and then add them to your dashboard. And adding to your dashboard, when I say that, I don't mean calling up IT to do it. I'm meaning by configuring your own page, you can add and change what's on your dashboard. So you can see she's got a worklet that talks about revenue by quarter, year over year. She's got a global headcount and open position worklet. She's got an analysis of her team's performance in the quarterly close. And then she's got a spend by category worklet. So we're going to use this revenue worklet here to talk about or to show you what we mean by native insight. So Teresa analyzes the revenue by quarter for the last 3 years, and it's very easy to see that Q1's looking really good. We really got a nice year-over-year increase on revenue. The problem is it immediately poses questions, why? Where is that revenue coming from? Which customers? Who's responsible for it, et cetera? What parts of the business are driving that revenue increase? So what do you think Teresa does? But she clicks the little drop-down. And now you'll notice she has a pared down view of what she can see. Of course, we've got the traditional, analyze revenue by entity and cost center, yes. But then you'll notice some other ways that Teresa can analyze revenue that aren't typical for a financial system. Things like analyzing revenue by marketing campaign or sales channel or customer, division, invoice, line of business. You scroll down here and you'll see things like region, revenue category, sales item, sales rep. Those are not typically dimensions in a general ledger. What Workday's done to provide this insight right out of our solution is we've basically created a multi-dimensional general ledger. So Teresa can go in and say, I want to see that revenue for Q1 by line of business. And now it shows her 3 lines of business, enterprise, mid-market, small business. She can put a graph on them real quick, very easily there. She says, now I want to analyze that over time. So she can easily say by line of business by year. She hits refresh. And now it's very easy to see the enterprise line of business is what's driving, is the area of her business that's driving this increase in revenue, whereas mid-market and small business are pretty static. So again, this begs more questions. Well, who within that enterprise line of business is driving my revenue. So Teresa can very easily click on the enterprise line of business for 2013, and look, view it by sales rep. Sales rep is typically not something in your general ledger. It's usually in a CRM system, or it's in some data warehouse where you would then, log out of your financial system and then log into that other system and, maybe go through different menus, menus and all of that. Instead, right from the financials in Workday, I'm drilling by line of business into sales rep contributions to that revenue. And I can take this even further, and for this particular sales rep, Brandon Harris, he's my biggest sales rep for that line of business. I can click on Brandon and view the customers that Brandon is selling into to drive that revenue. So I'm going to stop right there. What I did was I went from a revenue dashboard, revenue by quarter, into a line of business analysis, into a sales rep analysis, and then sales rep by customer analysis, right from within my financials, right from within Workday, okay? As opposed to, again, a bolt-on business intelligence or data mart. And I can take a step further. If you remember from a minute ago, since Workday is object-based, you'll notice the customer here is an object. So Wayne Industries, okay, I want to do a little analysis on Wayne Industries. I'm going to hit that little related action again. And there's a little snapshot of Wayne Industries. So it looks good. We're selling Wayne Industries a lot. We've got a year-to-date sales amount of $1.8 million. We've got, in the last 12 months, $4.6 million. But you'll notice Wayne Industries is a very large AR balance. Boy, we're selling them a lot, but they're certainly not paying their bills very well. So an example of a related action here might be to take that customer and maybe edit them and put them on hold until we can figure out what's going on and why they're not paying their bills. Now, I won't actually do that, but I just use that as another good example of, from the native analytics and native insight within Workday, being able to also take action on that. That's an actionable analytic. Okay, close that window out and jump back in to the PowerPoint. So you can see with this built-in, these native analytics, it makes the system very easy to deploy and to use. Now, without having to have all of those bolt-on BI, business intelligence tools and data marts and workflow tools and then all the integration between them, we've significantly lowered the cost of ownership to do what I just did. Also, you saw that everywhere that I clicked, the information that appeared was relevant to what I clicked on. It was also pervasive. I can keep clicking through and drilling into more and more details and even taking action anywhere in the system that I have security to access, all natively within Workday. Just one last quick story. One of our clients, one of our clients, ServiceSource, and I was in a meeting with the CFO of ServiceSource recently, and he was explaining to me that the traditional enterprise application that he was on, he never really used. He relied on other folks to provide him analytics and reports. And they would go and do their magic and a couple days later come back with what he had asked for. That CFO now literally logs into Workday and uses Workday to do the type of analytics you just saw me do every single day. And that's a great example of how the built-in analytic capabilities of Workday can be deployed out to everyone, not just the hardcore finance users or HR or payroll users, but really everyone in the organization. Executives, managers of the marketing organization or their sales areas, et cetera, can all use the native insight that Workday delivers. Okay, let's get into the next area of the presentation and the next tenant that Workday built into its solution, and that's innovation. So again, I want to just talk a little bit about traditional solutions and how they're structured. We've all heard of a code block within the general ledger, and traditional solutions are based on this. It's core to their existence. And I've got a sample on the screen here of a traditional code block. A code block might look like company or entity, account, a department. Maybe you've got region. Maybe you've got project. You might have one or two others, and maybe not all of these within your code block. And that's how the systems are structured, and that's how transactions are entered, and therefore that's the reporting that you can get out of those systems. They were centered around the accounting behind transactions. The problem is there's a whole slew of other information that you want to analyze on. Things like cost center, channel, customer, territory, marketing campaign, industry, suppliers, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm sure your business has many of these, in addition to these as well. So traditional finance solutions weren't designed to handle these other dimensions in the analysis. And to give you a little background on what Workday did, I'm going to use Flickr as an example. For those of you who have used Flickr, it's a photo application, internet-based photo application. You know, before Flickr, we all have digital cameras. I had a digital camera, and I would take pictures, and then I would hook the camera up to my computer, and the computer would automatically download them, and it would put them into this folder that I didn't really know where it was, and it would give them these names. They were basically meaningless numbers and letters and stuff. And it seemed to work great. I was very pleased with myself that I had all my digital pictures on my computer. And the problem came when my wife said to me, you know, I'd like to see all the pictures that you have for our son James over the last, year or whatever it is. And then I was sweating. There was no way for me to figure out in this huge directory of pictures with these weird names which ones had James in. So Flickr came up with the concept of tagging. And what Flickr allows you to do, it allows you to take a photo and put tags on the photo relating to what that picture is. So in this example here, we were in New York, we took a tour, we were in Manhattan looking at the Brooklyn Bridge. It was the fall of 2012, and it was my anniversary. And Flickr allowed me to tag these photos so that when I wanted to retrieve them, I would simply select the tags that I was interested in, and then the system would return to me or retrieve from me the photos that met that criteria. So Workday used that same tagging example to overcome the problem that the traditional code block posed. And that was the accounting nature of transactions. So we basically removed the code block from transactions. Now, it doesn't mean we don't do accounting. We still capture things like company and cost center and account. And if you need region and whatever you need for your general ledger, your GAAP type reporting, we still have those. But then in addition to those, we can create tags for anything else that you need to use to analyze your business. And in Workday, everything basically becomes a work tag. Let me give you an example of what I mean by that. So here's some examples of work tags, and we're going to talk about an event, a transaction. And it's a purchase event. We've got two departments depicted here. The services department buys something, and the marketing department buys something. Now, when those departments buy something, of course, we need the basic accounting information. We need the entity and the account number, and maybe some other field that you have to have for your GAAP reporting, of course. But the services department, when they analyze information, they want to see things like the facility and the project related to that purchase. Whereas the marketing department, they want to see things like maybe the marketing campaign or the product or the region related to that purchasing event or transaction. Those become work tags in Workday that allow you to do that slice and dice type reporting and analysis you saw me do just a few minutes ago. That's what facilitates that capability is a work tag. And a traditional solution, what you see on the left there, they are journal-based solutions or debits and credits into account. In Workday, we are business event and object-based. So a transaction or an event, better, tells the system what event happened, who initiated it, when did it happen, how much was it for which company, for which cost center, et cetera, and then any other work tag that you've defined for that event. Then what we do, and what enabled the analytics, the insight you saw just a little while ago, is all those events are compiled into this business event repository. They're transactions and events for that matter. Then, when we want to generate analysis or reporting, we simply pull the appropriate work tag to generate things like your GAAP, your financial type reporting, your statutory type reporting. But using that same business event repository, we can drive more operational reporting, such as for the marketing department, just by pulling a different combination of work tags in our analysis. We can even do things like multi-book reporting, where maybe you've got to report on, U.S. GAAP and IFRS and possibly do management type of reporting. Again, by using those work tags, we can enable all of that reporting, and again, not just to the finance folks, but to everyone in the organization, including operations. A very different business model than your traditional enterprise application code block. It basically allows our customers to operate and do analysis with a much more complete picture than just a GL code block. And to demonstrate what I mean by this innovative approach, I'm going to jump into the system again and show you some examples. I'm going to go in this time, again, as Teresa Serrano. So if you remember, we left off in the revenue analysis by sales rep, and we were looking at this guy, Brandon Harris, was working with Wayne Industries. So Wayne Industries has a revenue contribution of $1.7 million. I can very easily click on Wayne Industries' revenue amount and then view that by invoice. Again, another work tag. And I see there's only one invoice driving the revenue for Wayne Industries. So I'm going to take that invoice, I'm going to right-click on it, and I'm going to say open it in a new window so I can see the details. And you'll see here pretty typical invoice information at the header. Who's the company, the cost center, the customer, the payment terms, etc. But you'll notice the header of this invoice also has work tags linked to it. This is how the system knew the marketing campaign related to the revenue amount when I was on that revenue dashboard. It also knows now the sales channel, the division, who the salesperson was, the line of business that this invoice or customer was related to. Those all become work tags. And then you'll see down here, I've got 2 line items on my invoice. Notice you don't see any accounting yet, any GL information, or GL account numbers yet. I'm going to drill on this invoice, and I'm going to go to View Accounting. And now you'll see the actual debits and credits for this invoice. But I want to point some interesting things out here. You'll notice a debit to my AR account, credit to taxes, and to revenue, etc. You'll notice I've only got 2 revenue accounts, even though I typically want to analyze revenue in many more ways. So I usually build logic into my GL accounts for revenue and expenses so I can do analysis. But if you notice, each of those 2 line items on that invoice, even though they use the same account, they have different work tags associated with them. So that line item that I clicked on, the first line item, has got marketing campaign, sales channel, customer division. Here's the line of business. Here's the region, the revenue category, the sales item, etc. All of those work tags were tracked on that line item for that invoice, and that drives the native insight built into Workday. And by the way, those work tags, in most cases, aren't entered by someone. They occur based on the customer, the region, the sales rep, the employee entering the information, et cetera, et cetera. So they're not something that someone has to go in and key in 15 different pieces of information in order to track. They typically default in. Okay. I'm going to show you another example of how work tags are used. I'm going to go in. I'm going to run a trial balance this time. I'm not sure how to get there, so I'm just going to do a search on trial bal, and there's my trial balance report. I click on it, and you can see I've got a bunch of parameters to fill out for my report, and I have some saved filters, we call them, which will basically populate the parameters on my trial balance. So I'm going to run my 2013 Consolidated North America trial balance. Click OK, and it runs that report. And it's a pretty boring report. Nothing special here. It's got my GL accounts listed down the left. It's got my entities across the top there because I ran it by company. But I do want you to notice, though, that there is only one cash account in my trial balance. That's pretty unusual. I know when I implemented financial systems, we basically had a cash account for each entity and each bank within that entity because I needed to report and analyze by bank account. It's pretty important to do that. So with Workday, you'll notice there's only one cash account. But with those work tags, I'm able to take the total cash from my trial balance. Right-click. I'm going to click on it. And I can go in and analyze cash by journal source. And this will show me now the cash by transaction type. So you can see customer invoice payments, customer deposits, bank transfers, intercompany, supplier payments, payroll payments, etc. Those are work tags based on the type of business event that occurred. Now, okay, that's great, but I still need bank account. Well, I can come over and analyze by journal source and then bank account, and you'll see now that I'm getting all my journal type, my transaction types by Bank of America check, by Chase, by Royal Bank of Canada, et cetera, et cetera. Still within one general ledger account, cash. The work tag in this case for bank account was a natural result of paying a transaction of a supplier payment or a payroll payment or doing an intercompany payment through the functionality within Workday, and it automatically tags the bank account on those transactions to allow me to do this type of analysis. You know, on this same very simple trial balance, I'm going to go in and do an analysis of travel and entertainment. I'll do a quick filter on the report. There's T&E, travel and entertainment. And again, it's just got the one account broken out by entity here, company. But if I was to click on this USA entity's travel and entertainment amount, I can very easily go in and view that by employee. Now wait a minute. I was on a trial balance, yet employee information is linked there. Because Workday is unified between HCM, Human Capital Management, and financials, employee information is right there. It's another work tag. And I can take this Brandon Harris, if you remember him from before, and I can go in and view him by expense item. And then it shows me Brandon's expense items that I can then graph and even go into, you know, lodging, et cetera. I'll stop there. But remember where I started this analysis from. I started from a trial balance, and then I went into the T&E account for an entity by employee, and then into an employee by item, and then into lodging, et cetera. Using the power of work tags. So when I say that we use an innovative approach in the way we designed our solution, that work tag approach that allows you to operate with a more complete picture, it applies to all of the business events, not just the accounting side of a transaction. Much more powerful. Okay, let's move into the next tenet of the Workday solution. That's agility. One of the problems I faced when I used to implement and use solutions was change. One thing is for sure, that your business is going to change. It most likely does not look like it did 2 years ago, and it will most likely not look the same 2 years from now. The problem is traditional solutions weren't really built for change. They were very flexible when you were implementing them. You could design the system any way that you wanted. But then once you began using the system, your design basically became, it's like cement. It became fixed, and you really can't change it. You can't change the foundation of your house and move one room to the other once the cement pours and it's cured. Workday was built to remain agile. We are a very configurable system from the time you're implementing to the time you go live to post-implementation. You are able to make changes in the system based on your business change. And when I say that, I mean things like this simple change here. In a traditional system, you're tracking company, account, department, region, project. If the executives of the organization say, we're going to now verticalize, or we're going to go to market based on an industry, that simple type of change in a traditional system, first, if you can do it at all, is typically very painful, very expensive, very time-consuming. A lot of times, people will have to wait until an upgrade in order to implement a change like that, just because it's such a big project. Okay? In Workday, we were designed to allow and accommodate for change. We knew it was going to happen. Change is like organizational change. And when I say organizational change, it applies to multiple things, but one of the ways that organizations can change is within HCM. Reorg, people reporting to different people. Well, since we're unified between our financials and our human capital management applications, when responsibility changes within HCM, that's automatically reflected in all of your reports and all of your information within financials as well. So we allow for very fast, simple organizational changes that permeate throughout the whole solution. The other type of change, the second type of change that we have accommodated and built into the system is change of process. So I mentioned before about the business process framework, and that's what drives the workflows and the processes that business events and transactions go through in Workday. Well, we have enabled changing business processes with clicks, not coding. Our workflow and our routing and our approvals and our processes are designed so that business users can maintain and change them. You do not need to call IT and ask them to do coding or to take on a major project to change an approval process in the system. It's built right into the system. And then finally, changes around reporting. And I talked about this with Worktags a few minutes ago. As your reporting and your analysis needs change, you can very easily go in and change and add new work tags to the system to allow additional insight right out of the Workday solution. So all of these changes are built right in so that you don't have to wait until your 3-year upgrade rolls around to implement them into the system. Okay, the final thing that we built into Workday is value. And by that I mean providing a higher value to our customers than a traditional solution. Let me give you a little background on that. Workday is what we call a SaaS, Software as a Service application. It's multi-tenant, and that means that all of our customers are accessing Workday applications in the cloud over the internet. They're all using the same version, the same line of code, if you will. We don't have a version that's on-premise running on your own servers and a version that's hosted and then a version that's in the cloud. Workday is only offered as a cloud offering. And that gives us some big advantages over traditional enterprise solutions. For example, we provide automatically to our customers 3 updates a year. And this timeline that you're looking at on the slide is our timeline since 2007. We've gone through 19 updates, 3 per year, for every one of our customers that use Workday. And below that, I've put in here the upgrades that other traditional vendors have supplied, 1, 2, possibly 3 over that 6-year time frame. And by the way, every one of the customers using those traditional solutions went through a very expensive, sometimes very difficult and painful, usually very difficult and painful upgrade process to get that new functionality. In our updates, we are providing our customers anywhere from 120 to 150 new pieces of functionality without the customer doing anything. They're automatically receiving them. Okay? In traditional enterprise solutions, because they're on-premise and they're maintained by your IT department, Gartner Group says that you're spending generally 75% of your IT budget just to maintain those solutions, the infrastructure, the integration. And 25% of your IT folks are spending their time on strategic initiatives. With Workday, because we're cloud-based and the advantages we have by being cloud-based, SaaS model, we flip that around, where 25% of your IT folks will maintain the system, and then 75% of their time and energy can be put towards more strategic initiatives. So much, much better way to invest your IT dollars. The other thing that being a SaaS multi-tenant model for Workday, the other advantage that it brings to our customers is collaboration. Because our customers are all on the same version of the software, they are much more able to share information, share things like reports, share best practices and workflows. We have a thing called the Workday community, where customers can go in and put in an idea. We call it a brainstorm. Hey, in your next update, it would be great if Workday would do this. Then other customers can go in and vote on those brainstorms. And you know what? That's how we drive our future functionality, is based on customer feedback. If our customers were all on different versions and different service packs and different databases and different customizations, we would not be able to give them all the same increased functionality at the same time. It allows us to do, really gain some great efficiencies on behalf of our customers. You also don't get risk. You don't risk getting left behind, where you don't do an upgrade and now you're off of support because you're 3 versions back, and now you have to upgrade or you have to come off support. That will never happen to a Workday customer because of our SaaS multi-tenant model. When you operate in a SaaS model like Workday, we do all of these things on the left for you, things like upgrades, backups. We manage the operating system, the database, etc. That allows you just to receive the newest innovation, very rapid implementations as opposed to on-premise, significantly lowering operating costs versus an on-premise solution. And just to show everyone what's within our financial applications, I did not include HCM since we're on a performative webinar here, but things like general accounting, managing cash, assets, customer and vendor contract, billing, revenue recognition, the reporting that you saw with the worklist, etc. Extensive project and work management, expense management, meaning employee expenses, full procurement, and then grants management for any public sector customers that are out on the call. And then finally, just wanted to show you a quick sampling of some of the Workday financial customers like TripAdvisor, Netflix, ServiceSource I mentioned before, Aperio, Sally Mae, Chuck E. Cheese. This is just a sampling of some of the customers that are getting advantage out of the Workday financial solution. And then just 2 quick customer stories before we wrap up and go to questions. TripAdvisor is a great story. They deployed Workday financials over 30 sites in 21 different languages in 7 months. Now, and in addition to that, obviously they gained a lot of flexibility and controls, better access to information, faster close process in a much shorter period of time than it would have taken them to implement another solution. And then J.B. Hunt is a great story. They're very into bringing together both human capital management and financials under the same roof, so they don't have silos between employees, managers, and financial information and so on. That wraps up the demo presentation. We're going to jump over to questions now. I'm going to hand the mic back to David. Just give me 1 second to do that.
Thank you, Jim. I will bring this back here in just a second, and we will then wrap up into questions here. Give me 1 moment here. Again, want to thank Jim for that great presentation. Definitely a lot of power at your fingertips using this solution. So the first question, Jim, came from a person out there asking about tags, and if you have a problem with tags, can you run some type of exception reporting to highlight what's potentially missing or incorrect with tags? And follow on to that is, can you do a mass tagging correction?
Okay, so the first part of that question, there are reports and delivered inquiry screens that allow you to narrow down where there may be tags missing or problems with tags. Those are newer, those are in our latest 18 and 19 updates that we've put those in to allow customers to do a better job at keeping track of tags and where they may be needed. And then secondly, on mass updating of tags, you can do some mass updating within allocation functionality where you can take a source pool of dollars derived based on any combination of tags or account numbers or whatever your case might be, and then create new transactions with work tags automatically being placed on them. So not in all cases, but in some cases you can use things like allocations to do mass updating of tags.
Great. Next question comes, does Workday Expenses deliver integration to any corporate credit cards?
Yes, Workday Expenses delivers integration to American Express, Bank of America Visa, Citibank Visa, and MasterCard, so that transactions that employees charge on those cards will automatically feed into Workday Expenses, and that basically allows them to very quickly and easily create expense reports using those transactions as the starting point. Also facilitates better reconciliation for the corporate AP department that's paying those credit cards.
Great. And I think we have time for one more question there. Is there a way to default work tags on a transaction so the user doesn't have to remember them in the interim on each individual transaction?
Yeah, that's a very important point. So work tags will default based on any number of circumstances. And it could be, my example I used in the demo was charging a certain customer might default in the line of business that customer relates to. Someone entering an expense might default in the region that they report into, and project information, et cetera, et cetera. So there is an entire defaulting scheme within Workday that as much as possible we will use so that work tags are automatically populated and we don't ask end users then to have to key them in. Therefore, we alleviate errors, we speed data entry, and we enrich the reporting that you get out on the back end.
Great. Appreciate that. I want to thank you for those insights and discussions. Sorry if we didn't get to everyone's questions today, but we will forward those off to Jim so he can answer them directly with you after today's webinar. A few housekeeping items before we end the webinar today, at which time you'll be prompted to take a short survey, and we appreciate you giving us this time so we can continue to deliver you great content. Also want to let everyone know that our CFO Dimension Conference is coming up in New York on August 22nd. This is the premier finance conference on strategic leadership. We hope you'll be able to join us there. If you would like more information on this, in the post-survey you will have a link that will provide you so you can click and have more information. I do want to thank Workday for putting on this great presentation with all information, and I want to thank Jim. He's a great presenter, great job out there.
Thanks, David. Thanks, everybody.
Now, I'd like to take this time to thank you, the audience. Again, after we close down the webinar, you'll be prompted to take a short survey. Please go ahead and give us your input so we can continue on. You will also, during that survey, have a link so if you would like an introduction to Workday, or if you would like an introduction to Jim, so that you can follow up on any questions you didn't get answered or have any additional questions that you may have. I want to thank Workday again for putting this presentation on, and thank you for your time. We hope to see you at another Performative event or online at performative.com. This concludes our presentation for today. Have a great rest of your day.